Welcome back to the Blur Channel, everybody. We are continuing our theme of where the DCEU could have been. This time we're picking it up with the next movie I think they should have released, which is The Batman. Now, we did just get The Batman in 2022, but originally we were supposed to get this movie way back. Even people said it was supposed to come before Batman vs. Superman, and it was supposed to feature Ben Affleck, and then it went through all these changes and development craziness until we finally got it in 2022. And the one in 2022 I think was a very solid film. But as far as building the continuity of the entire DCEU, I think right after Man of Steel, they should have pivoted and made sure that they had the Batman ready to go. And I think one of the pitfalls of the DCEU, I think Zack Snyder did a great job trying to get it set up. Batman vs. Superman was a big misstep for me from Zack Snyder. However, I think they put most of that building on one director, and it was a little bit too much. Like, the MCU had Kevin Feige, and maybe if Zack Snyder was the Kevin Feige of the DCEU, he still needed to choose a director for each one of his projects, right? So in this case, Zack Snyder was kind of the architect behind it all, so he was the only one making sure the universe was continued. When really, if they had another director, like brought in Matt Reeves way early on in 2014 and had another character, another person, executive saying, okay, this is how the Batman is going to relate to future projects. Zack Snyder, you're focusing on Man of Steel, Superman movies, right? And then maybe he'll do Justice League as well. But I think pretty much giving the whole universe to Zack Snyder and saying, okay, you made Man of Steel, make a whole universe, it kind of delayed everything and made everything take longer to come out. Because in the MCU, we got Iron Man and Incredible Hulk by two different directors. Now, Incredible Hulk was kind of a flop, but anyway, we still got them in the same year. They came out back to back, and then 2 years later, we had Iron Man 2 because everything wasn't on one director. I really wrestled with this one because obviously Christopher Nolan directed one of the greatest superhero trilogies of all time and maybe gave us one of the top superhero movies of all time in The Dark Knight. And I would have loved to just make his Dark Knight trilogy part of the DCEU. Even most of the Batman movies that I wrote influenced heavily by that trilogy. However, I just could not bring myself to do it because he closed that storyline with such a button. And especially because in these stories, Robin, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, that character is going to play a very important role. Even though it was 2 years after the last trilogy just came out, in the interest of building a whole universe, I just would have rebooted the whole thing and the Batman would have come out in 2014. And they even could have waited a little bit to put out the Batman, maybe like 2016. But to me, in DC, your two strongest characters, Superman and Batman. Start it off right, get your Superman movie and your Batman movie establishing a universe. So without any further ado, we're going to go into how I would have done the plot for the Batman. Now, this version of the Batman is actually very similar to Matt Reeves' version. We would be picking up right where Bruce Wayne returns to Gotham. He's been gone for 5 years. No one knows that he's been training with the League of Assassins while he was gone, and we're actually going to get into his origin a little bit later. But for right now, we're just picking up where Bruce Wayne has returned to Gotham after a 5-year hiatus, and everybody thought he was dead. So in this time, Bruce Wayne decides to become Batman as a way to conquer his fears and help fight injustice in the city, because when he gets back, he feels like he sees a lot of injustice and corruption. And I think it would be cool to have, like, he comes back and discovers that Maroni or Falcone, a crime boss, is on his board of directors for Wayne Enterprises, but that doesn't necessarily have to be it. I think when he gets back, he just finds out that his board is helping fund Penguin's campaign, and Penguin's club has some of his board members in it. And that inspires him to become Batman and fight injustice and corruption in his own way. Now, I really like the idea of that club that is catered to the corrupt officials in Gotham that we explored in The Batman. And so in this case, for my storyline, I would have Penguin, Oswald Cobblepot. He's the one that runs that club. And he actually, in the back of his head, he wanted to become an official. He wants to become the mayor. But because of his appearance, because of where he comes from, he realizes he can't do this through traditional means. So he starts getting involved in crime. Eventually, he starts running this illegal club, but he caters to the corrupt officials. So now he's got dirt on them, and now they owe him favors in exchange for him keeping this all under wraps and keeping it all on him. He also would have his own mob called the Red Triangle Gang, who would have been a failed circus troupe, the Flying Graysons, in order to take out political enemies for people in his club. So now they all owe him and they're all attached for him. And so starting here, he decides he wants to run for mayor, and he's starting to use all these favors to come out into the public and run for mayor. And the election starts going well for him because he's got all these politicians that have to back him because he can blackmail them them so easily. So then, and one of those corrupt officials is going to be DA Harvey Dent. I love what they did with Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight. It was amazing to watch Joker corrupt Gotham's White Knight. In this case, there's not enough time to see Harvey Dent go from good guy to corrupt to crazy. Like, there's just not, so he's just going to start off as a corrupt official. He's a DA, but he does coke in this club, basically does a bunch of illegal stuff that no one can know about except everyone else who's in this club full of corrupt officials. So then the Riddler starts kidnapping corrupt officials and killing them and putting it on TV, just like what happens in the Batman. And he kidnaps Harvey Dent. And Harvey Dent, he's very angry with because Harvey Dent had his brother killed in order to cover up a conspiracy. So Riddler has a personal vendetta against Dent, and Riddler makes Dent watch as he murders all of Dent's corrupt official friends. Meanwhile, Batman is trying to track down all these clues, and he's working with Jim Gordon, who's a police chief right now, and forensic scientist Patrick Parker, trying to decipher all of these clues and figure out exactly how is Riddler kidnapping these people, killing them, and where is Harvey Dent. And Batman notices a lot of these people that Riddler is killing are Penguin's political enemies, other mayoral candidates, people that are opposing him, and Riddler's doing this on purpose to try and make it seem like Penguin is taking them out. So Batman gets a chance to try to question Penguin, but then the Red Triangle Gang intervenes and allows Penguin to escape. So that's when Batman is going to take one of the gang members. He's going to kidnap him, Dick Grayson, and try to get some more information from him. So now in this storyline, Dick Grayson is going to start off as pretty much a mobster because when his parents died in the Flying Graysons, his entire circus troupe failed, and the only person that was willing to take them in and give them a job was Penguin. And Penguin liked their acrobatic ability. He's like, combine that with some fighting skills, killing, and you're going to be my mob. So Dick Grayson feels like he's stuck in this because he has no way out, just like Batman. And so while Batman is questioning him and grilling Dick Grayson is going to be like, I'm not afraid of you because there's nothing you can do to me that Penguin won't do this 10 times worse, right? And Batman really admires his resolve, but he also sees a scared little kid and he sees a lot of himself in there. And Batman realizes that Dick Grayson doesn't have the tools to protect himself, even if he does squeal and Penguin turns on him and Penguin sends people after him. And so that's how we get Robin. Basically, Batman's going to say, hey, I will train you and show you how to protect yourself if Penguin comes after you. Give me the information though so I can try to take him down. And so that's what Batman and Robin do. Batman trains Robin, Dick Grayson becomes Robin, Batman trains him in exchange for getting some of the information and the dirt that he needs to try and find out what Penguin is doing. Meanwhile, on live television, we go back to Riddler and Dent. And on live television, Riddler burns Dent's face half off on TV and calls him two-faced because Dent is corrupt. So then Batman is able to crack Riddler's code shortly after that spectacle, and then he goes in and ends up saving Harvey Dent. What he doesn't realize is that Riddler made that code specifically easy because he wanted Batman to save Dent. Because what's going to happen is after Dent gets saved by Batman, he's going to host a private gala celebrating his return. When really, Riddler has indoctrinated Dent while he had him kidnapped, and Dent saw that all of his friends were only looking out for themselves, and that's why they didn't send anyone to try and save Dent. And it's going to make him really, really mad. So Batman actually realizes that Harvey Dent is about to kill all of these corrupt officials at a private gala for abandoning him. And so we're going to see Harvey Dent has all the officials tied up and he starts flipping coins to see who lives and who dies. And his plan is just to go through one by one and make them all watch as they die. And so Penguin is the first one he kills. He flips a coin, heads, shoots him. But by then, Batman and Robin figure out what happened, and then they stop him and put Dent in jail. So basically, that's kind of how Harvey Dent becomes the main villain. And essentially, Riddler really kind of wins because he did succeed in getting Harvey Dent to turn on all of his friends. However, Riddler is going to be mildly upset that Batman ruined his plan to have Dent kill all the officials, right? So we're going to explore that a little bit later because in the end credit scene, Lex Luthor is going to be meeting with Patrick Parker and he's going to call him by his real name, Edward Nygma. And that's when the audience is going to find out the entire time Patrick Parker, that forensic scientist, was actually the Riddler. And him being a forensic scientist would explain how he was able to do all the things that he did, cover up his tracks, leave mysterious clues, as well as he has some training as a police officer, which is why he was able to subdue people pretty easily. So kind of connecting into Man of Steel and setting up Batman vs. Superman, Lex Luthor would have met with Patrick Parker and they would have turned kryptonite red. We already saw Lex Luthor discover kryptonite and shoot Zod and kill him with it. Now we're going to see Lex Luthor working with Patrick Parker, aka Edward Nygma, to turn this kryptonite red. The reason why is going to be revealed in Batman vs. Superman, which I'll get into in a few videos. But basically, this is where we are. We as the audience realize Riddler was Patrick Parker the whole time, and we're still awaiting this confrontation between Riddler and Batman. But in the meantime, we get introduced to Robin, who's going to play a huge role, Dick Grayson, as the series continuity breaks out. So let me know what you think in the comments, if you think this version of the Batman would have went over very well, how it kind of could have set up the whole DCEU and connected into the bigger picture, because this is about where we would have been in 2014, and we're going to keep doing this all the way until Flash comes out in 2023 to show exactly where the DCEU could have been. Thank you for listening. Until next time, Blurds.